approximately coast to coast, Bob Elliott and Ray Goulding present the Bob and Ray Public Radio Program.
Well, welcome again. And we've got two important items on the agenda today. The first is in the nature of a public service announcement.
Well, it's a message from the elephant keepers at the Bronx Zoo here in New York, and we're happy to cooperate. It's been brought to the attention of these keepers that certain citizens have been exploiting their elephants.
Well, you know, these elephants are supported at the zoo for the edification of the taxpayers of New York City, as well as guests from out of town.
And the officials of the Zoological Society take a dim view of certain promotion-minded characters who've been painting advertising slogans on these elephants. For example, subscribe to the Casserly Memory Course and remember like me.
Or let the Keene Express Company handle your trunks.
Now, these mercenary efforts are distasteful to all of us, and we ask your cooperation in helping to stamp out the practice. Well, you know, it's special guest time now. Every once in a while, we chat with people, you know, who look like famous personalities. And today, our scouts uncovered a Mr. Charles Mumford, who looks exactly like Ralph Bellamy, a famous star of the stage and screen. Hello, Mr. Mumford.
Hello there, Mr. Goulding.
You know, it's fantastic. You do bear a remarkable resemblance to Ralph Bellamy.
Well, thanks for the compliment, Mr. Goulding. People began to notice the resemblance just about the time Sunrise at Campobello came out.
Gosh, that's a long time ago. Are you about the same height as Ralph Bellamy, Mr. Mumford?
I'm about 7 inches shorter than he is. I once measured myself against a cardboard cutout of him in a movie house lobby.
And you found out that you were 7 inches shorter?
I had to estimate that because the cardboard cutout depicted him as a commando landing on foreign soil, and he was crouching over. But 7 inches shorter is about right, yes.
And even with the height differential, people still take you for Ralph Bellamy, right?
That's right. I can't walk down the street without having someone yell, "Hello there, Ralph Bellamy."
And what do you do when they say that?
Well, I acknowledge the greeting with a nod, and sometimes I take the pipe out of my mouth and favor the greeter with a smile.
And I suppose they comment on what a surprise it is to run into you.
Yes, I get that all the time. People seem to enjoy talking to famous personalities.
Well, now, when people stop you on the street, Mr. Mumford, what questions do they generally ask you?
Well, when the weather's cold, most of them say, "Why put up with this cold weather, Ralph? Why don't you go back to the warmer California climes?"
And what do you generally answer when something like that's asked, Mr. Mumford?
I say I'm here visiting some dear friends, and they seem to accept that.
But isn't your voice a tip-off that you're not actually Ralph Bellamy, but really Mr. Charles Mumford?
Well, as you know, it's illegal to impersonate another man.
I know. How do you get around that?
Well, in the first place, the voice you hear now is the voice I use when I talk to people who mistake me for Ralph Bellamy. I never tried to imitate his voice.
That's true. You don't sound at all like Ralph Bellamy. No.
And then just to cover myself, at the end of each conversation I have with these people, I say in a very low voice, I enjoyed our very nice chat, and incidentally, you have just been talking to Mr. Charles Mumford.
And that makes it legal and all right, huh?
It does as far as I'm concerned.
I see. Well, Mr. Mumford, did anything exciting ever happen to you because of your close resemblance to Ralph Bellamy?
Well, one time I was in a nightclub and the MC recognized me and thought I was Ralph Bellamy.
What happened?
Well, he got all excited and said something about how I was sitting in the audience and how the club was fortunate in having me there as a guest.
Yeah.
Then he wondered aloud if I wouldn't come up on stage and do something.
And did you, Mr. Mumford?
No, I took the pipe out of my mouth and said, no, I'm here to enjoy myself. You go right ahead with the next act. The entertainment policy at this nightclub is a good one. And tell your next act not to be nervous just because I'm in the audience tonight.
Well, I guess that was the best thing to say. Well, thank you for having been with us today, Mr. Mumford. You could be a twin, I mean it.
I know you do.
Say, here's good news for the busy gift shopper. Do you have trouble selecting just the right present for Christmas, birthdays, and other special occasions? Then why not offer the token of love and esteem that's welcomed by all? A gift certificate for Ironbinder flypaper. Now, they're available in denominations of $10, $50, and $100.
And they can be redeemed for whichever size and style of flypaper best suits the needs of the recipient. Friends will love you for your thoughtfulness, and they'll also admire your good taste in selecting a gift certificate for genuine Einbinder flypaper, the brand you've gradually grown to trust over the course of 3 generations.
Say, once again, our scouts have been searching the railroad and bus terminals for victims of hard luck who need a helping hand from our generous Bob and Ray organization. Bob, I assume that gentleman there beside you is today's first knucklehead who's gotten himself into a jam.
Yeah, well, I think we'll think of him more as a tragic victim of fate once we've heard his story, Ray. His name is Merton Harmerdoit, and he's from Newton, Kansas. Mr. Harmerdoit, I understand you're trying to raise money to get to Europe because you can't find a job in your line of work back in Kansas. What is your occupation, sir?
I'm a fool.
You could be one of those almost anywhere, couldn't you?
Well, not if you expect to get paid for it. You see, I'm not just a civilian who acts foolish.
No.
I'm a professional fool. I wear those little shoes that curl up at the toes. I have a cap with bells on it. And I do handsprings to amuse the royal family. All that sort of thing.
So, when you're really a modern-day version of the old court jester, I guess.
Well, the modern-day version is pretty much like court jesters have always been. But, of course, the big problem is that there are no royal families for us to amuse in this country.
Well, do you think they still have court jesters in Europe?
Well, I don't know for sure, but that seems like the best place for me to give it a whirl. See, nobody in this country will keep my job application on file when I tell them that I'm a fool.
Mm-hmm.
It's the only kind of work I'm trained for, see?
Well, it's tragic to hear that the recession may be over for some, but it lingers on for you, sir. But our Bob and Ray organization stands by to help, and here just for you is this sturdy home safe to keep your valuables in. It's from the Lockport Lock and Bolt Company of Lockport, Illinois. I think you'll find it very useful.
Well, I don't really need a safe in my home. See, an unemployed fool doesn't accumulate too many valuables.
Well, I'm sure it'll come in handy. Now, with today's next story, here is Mrs. Mabel Wheatley of Astoria, Oregon. Did I pronounce that correctly, Miss Wheatley?
Yes, Oregon.
And I understand that you encountered heartbreak after traveling clear across the continent for a rendezvous with your long-lost son. Did you fail to meet him here as you expected, or what?
Oh, I found him here, all right. And he'd become just as wealthy as I'd been led to believe. He does something shady down on Wall Street and lives in a beautiful mansion in Connecticut.
Well, as a mother, you must be awfully proud of him. But I'm sure there must be a note of heartbreak somewhere in your story. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been asked to be on the show.
Well, I certainly don't have any shortage of heartbreak. You see, Lionel wasn't as thrilled to see me as I expected. In fact, he turned the dogs on me when I tried to climb over the fence at his estate.
Now, that's really shocking. You have any idea why the boy is so ungrateful?
No, I just don't know what got into him. I certainly tried to be a good mother. I even left a note pinned to his blanket when I abandoned him, saying that he was allergic to baked beans. And I picked a trash can to leave him in that was next to a hot water pipe, since it was midwinter and he was only 2 days old.
Oh. Well, maybe his foster parents never told him what a wonderful person his real mother had been. To ease your heartbreak, we want to give you a 3-day vacation at the beautiful Far North Motor Lodge in Fairbanks, Alaska. Just provide your own food and transportation. The rest is on us.
Well, how nice. Maybe I'll freeze to death up there, and then my son will be sorry.
Well, whatever you choose will be all right with us, ma'am. And I think Ray, we have time for one more story.
We got plenty of time.
Okay, one from this gentleman here, Mr. Wilford Driftman of Phoenix, Arizona. And you were being a good Samaritan when tragedy befell you, sir?
Yes. That sure is the way it was. You see, I found a briefcase on the street in Phoenix about a month ago.
Uh-huh.
And there was nothing inside but a card that said, if found, return to C.W. Waldrover, 347 West 86th Street. So naturally, I hopped the next plane to New York.
Because you knew C.W. Waldrover here?
No, but I knew there was a West 86th Street here. So I figured it would all fall into place once I hit town, and I'd probably collect a big reward and things like that.
Well, I guess something went wrong. You didn't find this man when you reached West 86th Street.
Well, actually, I never got to West 86th Street. I was arrested at Kennedy Airport. Cops want to know what became of the $1 million worth of negotiable securities that were in the briefcase when it was stolen from Mr. Waldrover. See, right now I'm out on bail.
Well, you're obviously innocent of any wrongdoing. Didn't Mr. Waldrover agree to drop the charges when you explained what happened?
Well, I haven't been able to explain anything to him, you see. He's still at his home on West 86th Street, back in Phoenix.
Ah. Well, your story has truly touched the hearts of all of us, Mr. Driftman. And to lighten your burden of sorrow, we want you to have this handsome foam rubber seat for your tractor. I know it'll make plowing a lot easier this year for you, and next year.
Well, gee, I don't plow. I don't have a tractor either.
Well, we can't solve all your problems, sir. Good luck to you, and back over to Ray at the main anchor desk.
And now, welcome to Gary Summit and its unfolding story of intrigue among the socially prominent. There, in stately splendor, far removed from the squalid village below, they fight their endless battles over power and money. And as our action begins, young Rodney Murchfield is entering the quaint shop on Main Street, operated by Big Emil Demke, one of the leading hitmen in the village.
Yoo-hoo, anybody here?
I'll be right with you. I'm just finishing a little job out here in the back.
Oh.
Yes, sir. May I be of assistance?
Yes, I have a family problem I hope you can help me with. You see, a man claiming to be my long-lost brother has turned up, and since a large inheritance could be involved, eventually...
Well, I understand. We have a full line of services that we offer to take care of such things. You want it to look like an accident, or will any kind of cheap, messy job be okay?
Well, I thought maybe you'd have a catalog I could look through.
Of course. They're all over in that rack there against the far wall. Simple pommelings are on the left, and up to the permanent stuff there.
Okay.
Just browse around. I'll be with you in a second. Hello. Big Emil's Disposal Service. Big Emil speaking.
Hello, my name's Spanky Murchfield, and I'm calling long distance from a large western city.
Los Angeles?
No, Fresno. To a child of 12, this seems like a large city. However, that has nothing to do with what I'm calling about. You see, I'm the son that Caldwell Murchfield never wanted, which makes me Rodney Murchfield's nephew by a previous marriage.
I didn't know Rodney was married previously.
He wasn't. I'm his nephew by Caldwell's previous marriage. But the basic point is, I'm the grandson of old Agatha Murchfield, only she doesn't know I exist, which is unfortunate in a way.
You know, you're running up quite a phone bill, kid. Especially since you got the wrong number. I happen to be a hitman specializing in the finest of brutality and mayhem since 1954.
You're the person I want, all right. You see, I'd be old Agatha's closest relative if anything happened to her two sons. So, could you give me an estimate on blowing away Rodney and Caldwell?
Well, I could allow a discount on a double order like that, but even wholesale, it'll run about $3,000.
$3,000? Wow, that's more than I figured. I've only saved up $1, which is big money for a 12-year-old in Fresno. So, for economy's sake, I guess I'll have to handle the job myself. Bye-bye.
So long, kid, and good luck.
I've found an item here in the catalog that should do nicely. It's your Roaring Twenties special, number 8347A.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's machine gunning from an open Pierce Arrow touring car. It's been very popular with several of our clients.
Fine. I see you take all major credit cards, so when can you do the work?
Well, I could have a gunman and driver in town by tomorrow, but I need an extra day or so to find a Pierce Arrow. How would Friday afternoon be, say around 1:45?
Oh, excellent. Any time after lunch is good.
Okay, we'll consider it done. I wonder what this so-called brother of yours would be doing right now if he knew what was in store for him.
Very good, sir. I'll take care of it personally on Friday around noonish. And could I have the recipient's name, please?
Yes, it's my prim little brother, Rodney Murchfield.
Very well. And the particular service you chose from the catalog there was...
Well, it's number 8347A. It's the one with the Pierce Arrow touring car. I guess I picked it because Rodney never did anything colorful before, and it's the last chance he'll have to attract a little attention. Yes, sir, the very last chance.
Well, will the diabolical schemes of Rodney and Caldwell seem to lack originality when they both unfold on the same afternoon? Can Miss Agatha avoid being charged with murder if she's the only suspect who survives? And what about the high-speed bus bringing Spanky from Fresno? Perhaps we'll learn more next time when we hear the bus driver say,
I don't care if it is 3 a.m. This is where we always stop for breakfast, so everybody out.
That's next time when we resume our story of money and intrigue on Garish Summit. And now, here is the news you've all been waiting for from the Monongahela Metal Foundry. We've got a winner in our big, giant sweepstakes contest to select a trade name for Monongahela's new number 4 size steel ingot.
And our lucky first prize contestant is Mr. Elroy K. Depew of Rural Route Number 1 in Carthage, Missouri.
Wonderful! And our congratulations to you, Mr. Depew.
And the winning name, suggested by Mr. Depew, was Alfred. Congratulations again to you, sir. And your fortune and prizes will be on its way the first thing tomorrow morning. Now let's join Mr. District Defender, Champion of the Week, and the Helpless.
I am the city's district defender. It's my job to defend the weak and the helpless as they come into daily contact with the parasites of society that lurk around us all. Any decent person could easily fall victim to the con man, the grifter, the hoaxer. All I can do is stand ready to wage war against evil from my office high atop the old Van Brewster building. It was there that my latest heartbreaking case began.
Now, wait a minute, Harold. Don't go trotting around like a chicken with its head cut off. I'll bet maybe this nice-looking young man could help us.
I'm sure I could, dear lady. You and this man, whom I judge to be your husband, look like natural targets of the con man, the grifter, the hoaxer. Sit down and tell me all about it.
Well, I really don't know whether we ought to take up your time. As I was telling Martha on the way down here, there are some winners in life and some born losers, so maybe we ought to just write off the whole thing and forget it.
I can appreciate how you feel, sir. Nobody likes to admit he's been a gullible fool, but as the district defender, I'm here to help, so tell us your story from the beginning.
Well, Harold's been a gullible fool, Mr. District Defender.
Yes, I'm sure he was, but I'd already guessed that myself, so suppose you go back and tell me your story from the beginning.
Well, see, Harold and I operate a small Greasy Spoon restaurant on the outskirts of the city. It's what they call a mom-and-pop establishment, even though we have no children of our own.
Yeah. I get the picture, and a tragic one it is. Decent people like yourselves are easy marks for the con man, the hoaxer, the grifter. So please go on.
Well, about a week ago, a man came in and he asked if he could get change for a $10 bill to use the telephone.
How tragically familiar this all sounds. The old change a big bill to use the phone gimmick. Did you bring along the counterfeit 10 he gave you so that I can enter it as evidence?
No, we didn't do that. In fact, I think we've already taken up too much of your time.
Now, let me be the judge of that. You know, it's little people like yourselves who must step forward if these hoaxers are to be stopped. But too many victims are ashamed to admit that they behaved like complete idiots. So just continue with your story.
Well, at first, I didn't want to give the man change unless he at least ordered a cup of coffee or something. But Harold foolishly gave him change for a 10. and the man went to the phone.
Then I'm sure he quickly pretended to get a busy signal so he could duck out before you had time to examine the bill.
No, as a matter of fact, he had quite a long conversation, and he seemed to be talking to a stockbroker.
Oh, of course. The old phony stockbroker on the other end trick. And I suppose you both became so fascinated with his conversation that you failed to notice he hadn't given you a genuine $10 bill.
No, Harold tells me that he noticed that almost as soon as the man turned away from the counter with his change.
I understand it all quite clearly now. Your husband kept silent because law-abiding citizens don't realize that counterfeiters seldom resort to crimes of violence when they're caught. It was fear that kept you from shouting at the man when you realized he'd given you a counterfeit $10 bill, right, sir?
No, I guess it was just shock. You see, he hadn't given me a counterfeit 10. He'd accidentally given me a genuine $100 bill. And I only gave him change for 10, see?
You say he gave it to you accidentally. I'm afraid you still don't understand how the con man preys on his victim by handing out large denomination bills. And I suppose you permitted him to get away without even letting him know that you discovered his trick.
Yeah, well, judging from his conversation with the stockbroker, I figured he had plenty of money, and nobody ever know the difference. But of course, when Martha added up the receipts at the end of the day, they didn't balance. We were $90 over.
But by then, needless to say, the man who had victimized you was long gone. And you were left with only a hazy recollection of what he looked like.
Well, I'd say I got a pretty good look at him. I thought maybe you could help us find the man answering his description so we could give the money back and balance our books. He was about 6 feet 4.5, weighed about 214, hair that was blonde and wavy on one side, black and straight on the other, lavender eyes, and part of the ring finger missing from the left hand, a mole on the end of his nose, and he was wearing blue earmuffs.
Well, I'm sorry, dear lady, but do you have any idea how many men are walking the streets of this city wearing blue earmuffs? We'd never find them. All I can say is that you've been taken, but I hope the experience will teach you a lesson and that you'll never again need the help of Mr. District Defender. I think we have time to welcome an old friend of ours. He's a writer, a traveler, a gourmand, and best of all, a storyteller. We know him by his dapper little trademark, a pencil-thin mustache. Would you all welcome Martin Lasser, ladies and gentlemen? Martin?
Oh, thank you.
Maybe you could tell us how that happened.
You mean my dapper little trademark?
Uh-huh.
Well, I wasn't thinking while I was shaving this morning, and half my trademark went on the floor.
Uh-huh.
But I called my doctor, and he said it'll grow in 2 weeks or so. Not to worry about.
That's good to hear. What we want to get to is some of those stories that you're so famous for, the stories that you've wrote and told so often.
Well, when I first started in this business, I was a cub reporter on the old St. Paul Ledger-Dispatch, Eagle Tribune, Courier-Citizen, Morning Ledger, Daily Item.
That was a famous merger, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Well, I was in a city room there one day, and the phone rang, and I heard the city editor talking to somebody. It seems that there was a man hanging from the 15th floor of the Vaseline building.
Oh, wow.
Over on Walnut Street. So I said to the editor, I said, could I go over and cover that story?
This would be a big break for you in the newspaper game.
Well, I don't know. So he says, go on over. He said, cover it. Take public transportation.
What was that? Do you remember at the time?
Trolley car.
All right. So you got over there. Is he
You
still
know,
hanging
about
up
15 minutes later, there's a big crowd out there. There's policemen, firemen with nets and everything. And I said, look, has anybody, tried to humor this guy? Tell him a few stories, maybe. Get his mind off his troubles.
Sure.
Coax him back in.
Yeah, well, they do that at times like that, I've noticed.
They said, no. I said, well, would you mind if I tried? And they said, no, go ahead.
Let me ask you this. Were you known at the time for having a sense of humor?
Not particularly. So I go in the building. They had the power turned off. I had to climb up all these 15 flights of stairs, and I get up there, and there's a police officer standing right outside the door of the room to the window where he's hanging.
Right.
So I said to the cop, I said, look, I've been authorized to go in there and to talk to this man and coax him back in.
Right.
He says, well, go ahead. So he opens the
let you
door,
go.
and I walk in. I go up to the window, and I said to him,
What'd you say to him? Well, maybe that'll come back to you later on, Martin. I remember a story you told when you were here once before about an experience you had up in the North Atlantic somewhere
yeah.
with the fishing fleets up there. Do you
Yeah.
remember that one?
I was doing a 1,500-word piece for a magazine on fishing in the North Atlantic.
That's the one. That's a rough, cold, rigorous, tough kind of life.
Well, it's not for me. Gee, we're up there. It was around this time of the year. The water was pretty cold, and it was cloudy, blustery, and high seas.
Uh-huh.
And they're pulling in all this haddock and mackerel and haddock and stuff.
Yeah.
And I look over here to the port side, and I see a submarine surface with a foreign insignia on.
Was this wartime?
No. But I said to the captain, Captain, Captain. Captain, I said,
I'm getting a hurry up signal, Martin. Do you have just one story today that you know the ending to?
well, I wrote one down,
Oh, good.
so I wouldn't forget it. It goes like this. Well, that's all right for you, sir, but this is Tuesday.
This is Tuesday.
Right.
It's kind of funny the more you think of it. Martin, I want to thank you for dropping by, and I hope next time we invite you to the show here, your memory and your mustache will both be improved. Martin Lasser, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, I guess we got to be on our way now. Bob, thanks for being with us here at the old Bob and Ray Public Radio program. It was developed and produced for the Radio Foundation by Larry Josephson, who's living proof that travel is broadening.
And our associate producer is Marjorie Van Halderen.
Stan Free was at the organ, and our audio engineer was Joe Lopes.
Funding in part from the National Endowment for the Arts.
And the New York State Council on the Art. And now this is Ray Goulding saying, right if you get work.
Bob Elliott reminding you to hang by your thumbs.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for
Oh,
coming.
you've been very kind. Thank you very much. Thank you.
This program was independently produced by the Radio Foundation.